For the last 2 months, throughout these ongoing coronavirus pandemic stay-at-home orders, we've had the pleasure of watching the stars of the NTT IndyCar Series compete in the virtual world, in iRacing. We've watched them compete at Watkins Glen, Barber, Motegi, Michigan, and even the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And through all of this, through the hours of sim rig setup, hours of practice and testing, through the 5 official IndyCar Challenge iRacing events and countless other unofficial races, the wives and girlfriends of IndyCar's finest have been, well, patient, watching, supporting, and rearranging schedules. And well, now it's their turn. It's a takeover of sorts. For the last week, those expensive sim rigs have had new drivers. 19 patient wives and girlfriends have turned into dedicated, driven, fiery, and focused competitors, all trying to raise money for their favorite charities. And for myself, Rob Howden, welcome to Worldwide Technology Raceway for the Better Half Invitational presented by Simplicity Cold Pressed Juice, an online charity event like no other. And I'm joined in the virtual booth today by multi-time Indy 500 starter, 2001 Indy Lights champion, and esteemed broadcaster Townsend Bell, as well as veteran sim racer and iRacing commentator Arjuna Kankapati. All right, Townsend. You got to stay unbiased here because you have a stake in this event. Your wife Heather is racing, but this is shaping up to be something really fun and really, in the end, for a good cause.
Oh, there's no question about it. I'm both excited, a little nervous, and quite curious to see how this all plays out. These ladies have been practicing all week, laying down thousands and thousands of laps around this Worldwide Technology track. They are impressively, I think, prepared and super focused for the job at hand.
You know, Townsend, we got some numbers of the amount of practice laps that were laid down by these ladies over the last week. Almost 7,700 laps. James Hinchcliffe told us 7,691 laps laid down. That's commitment. We're talking about some serious time behind the wheel. Have you had any seat time, or has it been dominated by Heather for the last week?
I haven't seen seat time in 2 weeks because I also have 2 boys that absolutely love to iRace. But Heather just found out about this, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday, and she's gone all in and practicing along with all the other drivers like Heather Carpenter, who we see here, and Emma Dixon. So many great names that you'll recognize as we get going here. But this is the event format, Rob. It's a really great layout. Just 20 laps for Heat 1. You grid by qualifying order, and then we're going to invert the field to keep things level set for Heat 2.
Yeah, I like the approach of a couple little sprint races. It should be a lot of fun. Again, these ladies have worked very hard to get a feel for this race car. They've been watching their guys go at it for the last 2 months, like I said. Let's move now over to Arjuna Kankapati. He is our pro, our resident pro in iRacing. He does a lot of sim commentary with Race Spot as well. Arjuna, let's talk a little bit about the race car itself. It's the Pro Mazda. We've used it in the Road to Indy program as well. We're here at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. Tell me a little bit about this race car and what maybe these ladies are feeling trying to drive this car around this track.
Yeah, I'm honored to join you guys both in the booth here today, and very exciting race. The Star Mazda, as it was originally called when it launched in the iRacing service, has, launched the careers of not only some of the best real drivers in the world who progressed from the Road to Indy ladder, but also some of the best sim racers of all time. Gregor Hutu, 5-time world champion. He's won, I think, 3 Star Mazda championships. So a lot of these ladies are going to be driving a car that's, obviously seen a lot of successful drivers, and it's also very quick. An IndyCar laps this track in about 24 seconds, and these ladies are doing 32-second lap times in the Pro Mazdas, and I think that's going to be very interesting to see because they've been racing very, very close, and, none of these ladies have significant sim experience. I think a lot of their significant others usually take the time on the rig, and so the key's finally being thrown over to the ladies for this weekend.
Yeah, indeed. Now, talk a little bit about a fast lap around this racetrack. With this particular race car, I think probably a little bit potentially different when you're driving the Indy car here, the IR18. What do you need to do? What's the kind of driving line to find the best speed here at Gateway?
Well, the good news is that, especially in this Pro Mazda, you will have seen it, obviously, Rob, a few weeks ago in the Road to Indy virtual racing, but you can kind of run both lines. The low and high line are both viable options. The trouble becomes that high line can be a little bit difficult to manage when you have to lift off the power, and this car has a little bit of lift-off oversteer tendencies, and that's going to be something to watch. Some of these ladies have to battle on that outside line.
Yeah, we indeed saw that oversteer when you have the issue getting off the throttle coming into a corner. Riding on board here right now with the 26 of Kate McConnell. That is Zach Veach's girlfriend, a staple, of course, on pit lane at the NTT IndyCar Series. She's been very, very quick. Right now here in practice, though, Riley Flynn leading the way. That's Colton Herta's girlfriend, and obviously Colton giving her some good coaching. She's doing well so far. Fast lap we've seen. Claire Bourdet up there as well. Sebastian Bourdet's wife. She runs P3 right now. We've got James Hinchcliffe actually joining us in the booth. We'll see if James can come in and say a couple of words for us here as well. James, this is an interesting program. Obviously, for the last couple of months, you guys have been in the rig. The ladies have been patient for the most part. Give us a little insight. How did this thing actually come to play?
Hey guys. I mean, first of all, thanks so much for having me on and being a part of this. And it all sort of came about because, like you say, I mean, we spent 6 weeks in the IndyCar iRacing Virtual Challenge, and that meant countless hours at the sim. And I know, especially in my case, we don't have a sim at the house. I was having to go into a facility, and that meant a lot of hours out of the house, away from home. I had Becky showing up at 7 o'clock, bringing me dinner in a Tupperware that I was eating during cautions on my lap, kind of thing. So I wouldn't have been able to do what I did with the virtual IndyCar series without her support. And I just thought, you know what? These stories were up and down pit lane. Let's do something fun for the girls. Let's get them together. And TK and I started talking about it early, and the girls were amazingly into it. All the partners bought in right away. I thought we might have a little bit of a harder sell, but evidently, I guess it runs in all the families a little bit.
Okay, so let's talk about your experience getting Becky behind the wheel. Of course, social media has been fantastic. Of course, we follow all the drivers. We follow a lot of the ladies as well. And the stuff that we saw on social media, a lot of laughing, a lot of aggressive and focus, and then a lot of apologizing when they wreck each other. I found that very interesting that these ladies obviously love each other, but it's that fierce competition until you wreck. Then it's all about apologies.
You know what? It's so funny. We've got a bunch of chats going with all the other drivers, and we're all now we're comparing stories, of what it's like coaching our partners, and they're all amazingly competitive. But then when something goes wrong, they just go the complete opposite direction of one of us. We all get mad and throw fits and call names, and these ones are all just they can't apologize to each other enough. They all become Canadian instantly. It's hilarious. And then they're fiercely competitive. Like Becky will not focus on driving laps until she's set up a good toe lap and got herself in the top 5. And they're just like drivers in a lot of ways.
That's hilarious. I love that, the fact that she's got to get that personal best down before she can worry about running by herself on track. Now, here's one thing I want to ask you. We'll go to Townsend with this afterwards as well. There's a couple of things you don't want to do as a married couple, and that's try to teach your spouse something. Golf being one, skiing being another. Obviously, there's just a no-win situation there. I can't see that teaching your wife or girlfriend how to drive a car is really a good thing to do.
You know, it's had its challenges, but I think kind of once Becky got a little more comfortable in it, it was a little bit easier. It's the big hurdle, right? Is I just use language that's second nature to me, but I say things to her and she goes, I have no idea what that means, as you know, we're crashing into the wall and bail rolling down the back straight. So I think once we got our vernacular worked out, it started going a lot smoother. And I got to say, she's been doing a great job. And it's been an absolute blast watching all the practices. You talked about the practice laps that they ran. I want you to know we didn't open official practice until yesterday, but basically 24 hours before the race. There were people guessing the cars and tracks because we didn't release what it was going to be. So there's over 7,000 laps of official practice in the right car and the right track, but a lot of these drivers were practicing in other things earlier in the week. So this has been a commitment level like we've never seen. Yesterday, Becky logged more laps in the sim than I did on any individual day during the iRacing IndyCar Virtual Series, by far.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. All right, H, listen, I'm going to let you go be spotter right now. Good luck to you and Becky. Have a great afternoon, and I really appreciate you putting this together.
Thanks so much, guys. And I just want to throw out a big shout out to Simplicity Juice, who jumped on board as the title sponsor of the event. The ladies have been sent a bunch of the juice, and they're loving it. And I want to thank Brian Simpson, who helped me out, Greg West, everybody from iRacing for all their help in this, and of course TK, he was a big part of it as well. So the donation page is up, stopandgofoundation.org. We're encouraging all the fans to donate if you're watching. And then lastly, I want to thank all the ladies for coming out and being a part of it. They're making this show awesome, and I can't wait to watch.
Indeed. Thank you, James. We'll talk to Townsend a little bit later, ask him quickly about how things went in trying to coach up Heather a little bit. We are now 2 minutes into what will be a 5-minute qualifying session. Townsend, the driver's having to put down 2 laps here. I think that's another one of the challenges. Of course, you give any driver, even myself, whatever, a chance to get out on a track for 20 minutes to get a bunch of lap times. Eventually, you're going to get a good one. But I think, as you know, tough for any kind of race car driver, especially for a lady jumping in. Getting 2 good laps is going to be tough.
Yeah, and we'll see, there she is, Heather Bell. What number is she? Number 9 there, working it through 3 and 4. And I think there's such a big difference in this car at this track running on your own, like qualifying as Heather turns her first lap here, and in the race. You get in dirty air behind another car, a lot of front wash, and you really have to change your driving style and how you place the car in that dirty air. So I think all the women have been getting the chance to make those adjustments, and it'll be really interesting to see how things shake out. For me, in terms of coaching my wife, I tapped out real early in this process. Been married now for a while, probably 17, 18 years, I should know, but tapped out and assigned my 2 boys, who are very experienced sim racers now, and did a great job coaching up Mom.
That sounds like a wise decision on your part. 17, 18 years, you want another 17 or 18, right? So be smart, stand to the side, let the boys do the work. All right, Hugh, let's bring you back in here as well. Qualifying this Pro Mazda car, what's it like in the first couple of laps? Is it going to be tough for these girls?
It's all about building up the momentum and making sure you don't scrub too much speed. You are going to have the tires underneath you to be able to do 2 flying laps. And right now, Claire Bourdet on pole position with a 32.948. She's got pole by about 0.04 of a second over her competitors, but the entire field only separated by about 0.6 of a second, so not too much separating all of these cars right now.
On the screen right now, Lauren Lyondike, the wife of Ari Lyondike Jr. She's putting her laps down, getting it down to the bottom of the racetrack there on the number 13 machine. We did mention the 2 different races. The overall winner of the day here will be the combined average finish. And of course, at that point, the winner of the event will have the prize money go to their charity of choice. We'll talk about that more. $1,900 raised by the drivers themselves, $100 to get in. And talking to James early, $800 were already raised extra in about 24 hours. So we're to $2,700. You could go to any one of the social media channels of the drivers here to find out what their particular charity is, and you can donate there as well. So qualifying continuing, about 30 seconds remaining. Claire Bourdais, as Arjuna said, up front right now with the fastest lap so far. Riley Flynn in the number 88, the girlfriend of Colton Herta, currently runs second. Lauren Canaan, TK's wife, P3. Gracie Norton, Jack Harvey's girlfriend, in the 43, running in fourth. And Heather Carpenter, Ed's wife, in that family number 20, rounding out your top 5. What do you think, Townsend? Your wife, where did she end up slotting in here right now? 15th. Is she going to be happy with that?
No, probably not. But you know what? It's not at the very back. I see 13th on the live timing here, but maybe that's not clear. Oh, it hasn't refreshed yet. So 15th. She's one that's going to want to stay out of trouble and try to take advantage of anybody else's mistakes and try to have a clean race and get to the finish. But really impressive job from Claire Bourdais to put it up front like that. I also think what I do is I filter through this list like I do with the IndyCar drivers iRacing and see what the kid count is. So you got Emma Dixon, she's rocking some young kids. Becky Hunter-Ray, super mom. 3 little boys at home. I mean, that really is an added bandwidth challenge as you try to get to practice here. So I kind of filter it through that lens, frankly.
That's a really, really good insight right there. Claire Bourdais starting on the pole in the 17 alongside Riley Flynn in the 88. Row 2, we'll see Lauren Canaan in the number 14 and Gracie Norton in that number 42. We move back to row number 3. Heather Carpenter in the number 20 machine starting 5th. Carly Wickens in the number 6. You can follow along on Robert Wickens' Switch channel as well. Emma Dixon, as Townsend said, a mom of 3 now, been in the 7th spot. Kate McConnell, Zach Beach's girlfriend, currently in the 8th spot. Rounding out your top 10, Abby Guman is Sage Karam's girlfriend. She'll start 9th alongside Becky Hunter-Ray. I saw some great social media in the offseason. All 4 of the drivers, of the people in that family, all going karting out at Homestead Miami Motorplex, which I thought was great. Kelly Mossop for Alexander Rossi, his girlfriend, starting 11th. Becky Hinchcliffe, her and James lining up there P12. Liz Power, wonder if Will's got that water bottle, chewing on that throughout the race here. She'll start 13th alongside Ellie Reed, Chad Reed's wife. Then we've got Heather Bell Townsend. She's going to start 15th alongside Nicole Westra, Dalton Kellett's girlfriend. So it's an inside row 8 start for Heather. Lauren Lyondike starting 17th. Alexandra Zaitseva. We have Marcus Ericsson's girlfriend in 18th. And Marta Andretti will be 19th position. Marco's wife starting at the tail of the grid. The first of 2 20-lap races. I think Arjuna, the first lap could be interesting.
Yeah, and it's all going to be about if they can keep it clean. Now, you have to remember, damage is turned off for this race. So unlike, what we saw before in the IndyCar iRacing Challenge Series, all of these drivers are going to still have the opportunity if they can, get back on all 4 wheels. In some cases in the practice races, some drivers ending up upside down, but they can get back onto the track and, keep pounding away the laps and see where they can finish up.
The opening corner here, opening lap, obviously will be crucial to see how things shake down. Claire Bourdais in that number 17, driving out of St. Petersburg, Florida. Her charity is Cart for Kids. It's a fantastic program that raises money for Johns Hopkins Hospital for Kids down in Florida. I've had a chance to be part of their Cart for Kids Pro-Am at St. Petersburg for many years. We're underway, folks. The first Better Half Invitational is now green racing into turn number 1 here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Drivers working their way through turn number 1 and 2 for the first time. Down the back chute, the course turn 1 and 2 a lot tighter than 3 and 4 here at Gateway. Potential driver to the outside of the racetrack, otherwise settling in. Bourdais, there's Riley Flynn now running, I believe, into the 3rd spot right now. Lauren Canaan, Townsend, good start. She's able to go to the inside to take over P2.
She did great, but Claire Bourdais, what a jump. Obviously well coached by Sebastian there at home to get after it early, and just a really nice gap going into turn 1. As further back, you can see things starting to slide around a little bit as Flynn is wrestling with the Mazda there in dirty air and traffic. Now making a move to the inside. Flynn goes... that was Claire Bourdais, I think, that was getting past. So a lot of action there as Lauren Canaan goes to the front.
Lauren Canaan was able to make a really good move to the inside at turn number 1. She took the lead, but didn't hold it down the back straightaway. Caution flag on the racetrack. So yellow flag indeed coming out here early. So drivers off the throttle and getting down to pace car speed. We'll get the iRacing pace truck back out there. And an incident on the racetrack. We didn't see it from what we were watching here on the race spot coverage. Again,
I was just looking at timing and scoring, Rob, and it looked like Heather Campbell and maybe Becky Hunter-Ray were well back on the gap. So I wonder if perhaps they were in.
Getting together. Really, it was just two competitors getting together to the apex of turn number 1 and 2. And once they started sliding, drivers with nowhere to go. So a number of drivers involved in that. Looks like Abby Gooman, Heather Carpenter, Becky Hunter-Ray was involved, Heather Bell, Emma Dixon potentially involved in that as well. So a number of drivers collected in an incident early on with just two drivers losing control a little bit coming through turn number 1 and 2. Well, I'll tell you, Townsend, again, you can speak to this. Once you get that first start, obviously there's a lot of pressure, right? A lot of stress. Anybody that's new to the sport, you know that first start, they were all just nervous and probably shaking a little bit. They got that one under the belt, right? That one's done. Now we can go to work for the rest of the afternoon.
Well, not only the nerves of making your first iRacing start, but probably the nerves of having your husband or your boyfriend hovering over your shoulder with rapid fire advice, spotting, coaching, constructive criticism. So I'm sure they're drinking through a fire hose out there. But you know, for the leaders, they fanned out pretty nicely going into turn 1, and so far so good. But Lauren Canaan, what a bold, aggressive move there on the first lap.
Yeah, great move to the bottom of the racetrack. She went high on the back straightaway, and of course then the yellow came out and she went to the top side and things slowed right down. You mentioned the fact that they've got the drivers over top of their shoulders. I wonder how competitive the husbands and boyfriends are here as well. Like, you know, is the pressure getting put on these ladies? I know that obviously we got you busy, so you're leaving Heather alone. Do you think TK's all over the radio right now on Lauren?
I would think there's a good chance. It'd be interesting to really know how it frames up, but I don't think it would be a bonus for Heather or frankly for our relationship if I was in there right now, because that's just a dynamic that doesn't work that well for us. You mentioned the golf course earlier, yeah. And snow skiing's another one. Best to kind of let them sort it out and certainly outsource where possible for professional coaching.
You are a wise man, Townsend Bell. Well done. Arjuna, what do you think about the opening start there? You know, we talked about exactly that. You know, when you get off the throttle, the car wants to kind of rotate around. The rear of the car breaks loose, a little bit of oversteer, and that's almost what we may have saw happen to one of the drivers.
Yeah, I think what we also saw is one thing that they're all going to have to deal with is, you know, Gateway is a fairly small track to, you know, drive around, and there's not much room to avoid incidents. And one driver who did a good job to avoid the chaos in front was Carly Wickens, who just about squeaked around on the outside. But quite a few other cars were collected in that one. And we did also see the power of the draft. Lauren Canaan to the race lead coming through into turn 1. And Claire Baudet, Riley Flynn didn't have much to do in terms of challenging that draft.
Yeah, in terms of a draft, Arjuna brings up a good point. These cars do punch a pretty big hole, I've noticed, just in watching practice take place. So even if someone can be a little quicker in front as we come to the restart here, if you could just stay in that tow, you'll suck right back up.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Townsend. These cars and everything we did with the Road to Indy program, a huge tow, especially here. We ran here a couple of weeks ago with the Road to Indy drivers. We had 2-3 wide racing because that draft is so aggressive coming down the straightaway. And I know watching a lot of the social media feeds, that's what a lot of the drivers were trying to get their wives and girlfriends to get right up on the gearbox before making the move to the outside, really trying to teach that move of making the pass. Watching now the number 12 of Liz Power. Liz right now running in the 9th position, up 4 spots. She's doing a pretty good run here right now. Alexandra Zetseva right behind her. Alexandra's going to look to the inside, coming into turn number 1. Aggressive move down to the bottom. Just got to keep it off the rumbles there, though. It's one thing to watch out for with this racetrack. If you dip that left front, you can potentially unbalance the car. Becky Hinchcliffe right in front of Liz Power now. And again, great. You know, we see these ladies on pit lane for all the events. You know, pacing, obviously a lot of stress, a lot of nerves watching their men out on the racetrack in the NTT IndyCar Series. And this is an opportunity for them to get behind the wheel. I got to feel like even though they're stressed, Townsend, it's got to be, I think this is going to be something that potentially will be good moving forward because they're going to get a little feel for what their drivers go through.
Absolutely. And speaking of feel, you know, one of the biggest things that I think the women will learn here is just the turbulent air, having having a Formula car here like the Mazda with wings and slicks, as you see a big wash there from Liz Power, that's what I'm talking about, is just the turbulent air and how you place your car behind the car in front of you in the corner. And whoa, that was a moment there as Jack Harvey's girlfriend Gracie Norton almost gets together. Here we go on board with Zach Veach's better half, Kate McConnell, excuse me. So a lot of good action, but I think figuring out where that clean air is and not getting too low and too tight here in turn one, finding the clean air, in this case running high to make sure you keep the front grip and not get a big understeer wash. I think that's the real challenge here at Gateway.
Yeah, one of the things I know that the ladies have to deal with and get a good feel for is not really, getting that wheel completely wound, right? You got to kind of unwind that wheel a little bit. We're seeing actually some really good racing right now. Lauren Canaan leading the way in the number 14. TK, of course, on the radio there. The battle we saw before between Riley Flynn and Kate McConnell was really strong. Here's Gracie Norton. She's on the top side there in the number 42 machine. She's trying to get her way through as well. That's Jack Harvey's better half. We'll go maybe 2-3 wide. It's Becky Hunter-Ray on the inside. Look at Gracie Norton going to the middle. We'll make it 3 wide coming out of turn number 4. Down the straightaway once again. We got ourselves a challenger. That's for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. What a good battle. Excellent racing here. Claire Bourdet down to the bottom of the track. She's to P3 right now as Gracie Norton Townsend around the outside to take over P2.
Pretty impressive there. They keep it clean, no contact here in this close quarters racing. So all those thousands of laps of practice has certainly paid off.
Arjuna, what do you think? Are you impressed so far with what we're seeing? Remember, these drivers, these ladies, they turned about 7,700 laps in total getting a feel for this racetrack. But I'll tell you, we got some actually really good, clean, solid racing up front so far.
Yeah, and Townsend was talking about how all of these drivers now have to, contend with the dirty air and the challenge that presents. But the other things that they're going to have to contend with is the fact that they're racing so close to one another. And, you also have to account for the, factor that internet can be an issue, and we do have a caution out.
Yeah, caution flag. Number of drivers involved, Arjuna, one of them being Kelly Mossop. She's fallen down the order. Look at the drivers involved here. A number going down, potentially Kate McConnell as well. Again, issues for the drivers here. Look, we got a number of drivers sideways. Of course, the caution is out, so everybody's kind of taking it easy here now. Get them to speed back up and get behind our pace truck. Gracie Norton still running P2. Lauren Canaan, your leader, so that's the way they're going to run around. We just got past the halfway point. We talked earlier about being a 20-lap race. They've actually got 25 laps up on the ticker, so a couple of 25-lappers here. And again, average finish. Combine those, we'll find out who is the outright winner of the Better Half Invitational. Again, big thank you to Simplicity Cold Pressed Juice for coming on board. My name is Rob Howden here, folks, joined by Townsend Bell and Arjuna Kankapati. Great to have you with us here on the iRacing YouTube page for this event involving the drivers' wives of the NTT IndyCar Series. Man, that was, again, Arjuna, I'll come back to you because that's the same thing we see about this race car. It seems to be intrinsic in the car here on the iRacing platform. They just back out of the throttle a little bit, and that rear end quite easily comes around.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I was trying to say just as the caution flag was coming out.
Indeed.
All of these drivers have to contend with the fact that they're racing so close to one another. And when Riley Flynn unfortunately had that little moment, had to get out of the throttle, unfortunately Kate McConnell didn't have much time to make a decision, and unfortunately a chain reaction was started that caused, I think, 6 cars to go around. Now, unfortunate for Riley Flynn because Riley had been, performing really strongly this entire race so far. She's now down on the pit lane awaiting her tow back to the lane.
Yeah, and indeed, that's one of the things, to get these ladies on the track. They haven't been in the sim before, to get a feel for it in the last couple of days. And James had mentioned, Arjuna, off the top of the broadcast, they didn't let people know what track or what car they were driving, so we weren't going to turn that many laps to potentially get an unfair advantage. But once they did get to the track and get a feel for it, there's one thing about driving around the racetrack, and then there's the next thing about that racecraft of really running together and knowing that when you're rolling into a corner, you're going to get that air wash. You potentially have to be a half width lower to make sure some air comes over that front wing to get that downforce you want. And Townsend, you could probably speak to this a bit with Heather. That's one of the things, right? Get her comfortable driving the racing line and being able to modulate the throttle and unwind the wheel. But then there's some of the racecraft stuff that is that you have to kind of address after that once they get comfortable driving around the track.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think, the big thing for Heather is just learning the relationship between your feet and your hands. And, this is something that you learn early on in racing school, is that your hands change the vehicle's direction, but it also moves weight on the vehicle, just like your feet do. So when you add throttle or you add brake, you're changing the pitch as the weight loads front to rear on the car. And when you're adding steering, you're controlling roll on that axis. So learning kind of that balance ball technique of those two axes, if you will, is really all part of driving. And that relationship, especially as they're coming off turn 2 and you get that front loaded up with some understeer and keep adding steering in the turbulent air sometimes. The key is to unwind the hands and release a lot of that roll energy at the right time. So I promise you, every single one of these drivers will be much better at the finish than they were at the start, and they'll be excited when we get to Heat 2.
And let's kind of lay the groundwork here as well. Remember, anybody you're talking about in the NTT IndyCar Series, these drivers like you, Townsend, started when you were younger. They ran karts when they were 8, 9, 10 years of age. The racecraft that they show now in their 20s, 30s, and some into their early 40s came from those early years when they were young racing karts. And that's something that these drivers haven't done. You look across the experience, the sim experience for these drivers, and I think Mario Kart is pretty much the thing we see across the board. They've played some video games, not many of them have been even a racing kart, as I mentioned before, with Becky Hunter-Ray. So really, this is so brand new to them. Even that basic racecraft that you guys learn when you're kids racing karts, they don't even have that yet here on the simulator.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, iRacing is just such a phenomenal platform for teaching. I've seen it with my 14-year-old son. I've got a 16-year-old Jackson who really loves racing. Loves everything about it. My younger son was always into other sports, and ever since this simulator showed up in the Bell House, in a matter of 2 weeks, he went from being pretty far out over his skis to being pretty darn good, and learning all of those fundamental techniques, and studying, YouTube videos of drivers posting skills and techniques, and just studying his competitors. And it's such a remarkable platform for efficiently, at a very low cost, learning all of those fundamentals. So, in the unprecedented last 8 weeks we've all been living under, it's pretty cool to see those kind of skills develop at home.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on to that one as well. Now, Townsend, I'm sure you have a very nice simulator, and all of these women have to now also get accustomed to the forces that these simulators can replicate. It's obviously not the exact same as what real life can do to the body, but you still have to press on the brake with a lot of force, and steering can be, a challenge at times.
Yeah, you're still playing the same instrument. In this case, Lauren Cannon doing a great job with another huge restart there, opening up a terrific gap further back the action, getting pretty tight and aggressive right away once again.
That's Carly Wickens trying to see if she can't work her way up under the gearbox of Claire Bourdet. But as Townsend said, a great launch for Lauren Cannon. She gets out early. Kate McConnell in that number 26 trying to storm her way back forward. Yeah, a little bit of a cut job there. Right in front of her, Kelly Mossop coming down from the top side of the racetrack. And a good job for Kate to kind of get out of that one. Lauren Lyondike right behind her as well, the number 13. But look at this battle here right now. That is Lauren Cannon on the bottom of the racetrack. Gracie Norton goes to the bottom, Cannon to the top, Gracie Norton, new leader in our opening race. Look at Cannon back to the bottom. This is the kind of action we bought the ticket for here, Townsend. Good racing up front, and bring in Claire Bourdet in the 17.
Oh, yeah. Lauren Cannon, no stranger to IndyCar action. She's been around the scene for many, many years, and obviously learned a lot from watching and putting it to great use here. But Gracie Norton having none of it as they come past start-finish once again. She ducks to the inside and takes the lead. And now Claire Bourdet wants in on the action.
Cannon feeling pretty happy at the top. Oh, contact further back. Driver going around further back and tipping over. So with 6 laps to go, I expect we may see another yellow flag, contact further back, trying to figure out which driver went over. That might have been Emma Dixon. Emma Dixon, I think, over in the number 15 machine. Drivers coming back around. Looks like we may continue on. It'll be 5 laps to go when they come across the line. Good 3-driver scrap up front. Gracie Norton back to the bottom in the 42. Cannon to the top side. Cannon running that high side here in Townsend. You can do that here at Gateway and get a good run. Almost contact as Claire Bourdet drifted up the racetrack.
Claire Bourdet was getting aggressive, had the big wash, and now we ride on board with Bourdet, but it's Lauren Cannon. Once again, she loves the inside move on the backstretch. She goes low through 3 and 4. Gracie Norton to the high side. Now Norton ducks in for the draft down the front straightaway. I love the way these Mazdas race here in iRacing. Such a huge tow for these drivers.
It was actually Carly Wickens that went over on the back straightaway, so she has fallen to the tail of the field. She was running nicely into that top 10. Why did we bother with the IndyCar iRacing Challenge? We could have did 5 of these. This is pretty good stuff, Townsend.
For sure. Bourdais to the inside. This will be her first chance to lead. If she can hold it going into 3, she does. Lauren Cannon trapped a little bit on the outside now. Really nice move from Bourdais, from the French woman.
Yeah, she keeps it to the bottom of the track coming out of turn number 4. That'll kind of hurt a little bit on the entry to turn number 1 and 2. Cannon's been running that top side of the racetrack. She may get a good run around the outside. I like Gracie Norton watching this from the back. You can sure Jack Harvey's in the ear telling her to watch what she's doing here. Still 3 laps remaining. We're coming down to the end of it here. First race of a doubleheader here at Worldwide Technology Raceway, the Better Half Invitational, and we have ourselves an absolutely entertaining front-running trio. Lauren Cannon in the 14, Claire Bourdais in the 17, and Gracie Norton in the 42. Townsend, they're sizing this thing up for a battle over the last couple of laps.
They are, and all this running close nose to tail in the corners. Arjuna, I got to think they're going to start experiencing some pretty good tire wear, especially with the front tires.
Well, the good thing is that, well, maybe not good, but those 2 cautions that we had should keep the tires just that little bit more alive. The person who I'm looking forward to seeing what they do is Gracie Norton. Gracie made a great 3-wide pass a few laps ago, already getting up to speed with racecraft, and she's definitely been sizing up the move, just planning it out. She seems to be content to stay on that outside line and force Claire Bourdais down to the inside, where she is once again down into turn number 1.
But there's another one in this party, Rob. It's Becky Hinchcliffe, wife of our host, mastermind behind this event, James Hinchcliffe. Becky in that green car, she is absolutely now part of a 4-car battle for the win.
Becky Hinchcliffe waiting in the weeds back there, ready to attack. This reminds me of the Freedom 100 a couple of years ago when Peter Dempsey was able to steal away a race win. They are 2 wide. She'll make a move to the inside. Move Hinchcliffe.
Bourdais gets turned. On turn Bourdais. Bourdais loses it off of turn 4. She's on her lid. What a hard break for Bourdais, as Cannon and Bourdais had a little bit of a land dispute there.
Final lap, Townsend down the back straightaway into turn number 3 and 4. Cannon to the bottom. Becky Hinchcliffe going to the top. No, she's going to the bottom rather. That's Gracie Norton on top in the 42. Cannon trying to hold the bottom. This is going to be a drag race to the line. Does Norton have it on the outside? Becky's going to look to the bottom. Cannon, here comes a big run for Norton on the outside of the line. Who's it going to be?
A
photo finish. Gracie Norton.
Oh, Gracie.
Contact coming afterwards. Gracie Norton at the line with the race win. Wow, what a finish side by side. Becky Hinchcliffe ends up P3. She went to the inside of the racetrack. Lauren Cannon to the outside. Liz Power up 9 positions, as was Becky Hinchcliffe to finish in 4th. Kelly Mossop comes back after early issues to get 5th. 12 positions up for Alexandra Zetseva. That's Marcus Ericsson's girlfriend. What a tremendous run there. Kate McConnell coming home in 7th, an early issue for her as well. Abby Guman, Sage Karam's girlfriend, finishing in 8th. Lauren Lyondike in 9th. And Martha Andretti from the tail of the field, staying out of trouble to finish up in the top 10. Townsend, that was a finish for the ages. That was what a tremendous last lap for the ladies here in the Better Half Invitational.
Rob, I called 6 IndyCar iRaces to start this whole COVID period, and we didn't have anything like that sort of finish. That was fantastic in the closing laps. Absolutely going for it. You could tell they really wanted to get to the line first. As we look further down through the results, Ellie Reed, wife of Chad Reed, nice to see her participating. Emma Dixon, my wife Heather Bell, coming home with a top 16. Nice job there, baby, on the lead lap.
You know what? I'll tell you, this is the one thing we talked about. Just these drivers getting behind the wheel, getting a feel for running in the simulator on iRacing. That was some great racecraft. That was literally, we know what strategy like is on an oval, Townsend, and you can talk about this, so can Arjuna a little later on. To be able to put yourself in the right spot. It's almost like that chess game, right? Where do I need to be able to make the run to get there? Here's a shot of the that's the contact there for Claire Bourdais. That was actually Cannon just getting into the back, coming out of the corner. But man, that final lap was thrilling.
That move from Lauren Cannon, that might disqualify her from Mommy and Me groups going forward, because that was pretty aggressive. She obviously wanted the win, but I'm sure Claire Bourdais is going to be frustrated getting loosened up like that coming off of turn 4. But what a battle coming to the line. That was a lot of fun.
Well, and indeed, Arjuna, that's the kind of racing we come to see a lot with this Pro Mazda. It reminded me of a lot of the stuff we saw here at Worldwide Technology Raceway just a couple of weeks ago with the Road to Indy program, where they were 2 wide, 3 wide, sometimes 4 wide. But this car, and as Townsend said, the hole that it punches in the air really kind of makes for great racing.
Yeah, and when you come to a oval like this, that we just saw how powerful the draft is. And, I'm very glad that I didn't put a commentator's curse on Gracie Norton there. Very excited to see her come home in first after what I was saying. And, now we flipped the grid and she's going to be all the way at the back this time. And I'm very excited to see what happens this time around.
Yeah, I think one of the key things to remember, folks, is this is 2 races, a couple of 25 lapper. It's the average finish is what will determine who is going to be the winner, whose charity will earn the money that is being raised for this particular event. Again, big thank you to Simplicity for being on board with us. Now, we kind of rock up the deck here, Townsend. Carly Wickens going to start on the pole position after the issue that she had flipping over on the back straightaway. Claire Bourdet on the front row. Riley Flynn and Heather Bell. There's the top 3 there were drivers we saw running up front. This could be an interesting kind of flip-flop in terms of the grid.
For sure. I'm thinking about running down the hallway here into the office and just cheering for some elbows out here, Heather. Come on, keep them behind you. Starting up front. Look at that go-kart track in the infield, Rob. I think when we get back to Gateway for real, we ought to put all 19 of these women in some shifter carts, cold turkey, and just see what happens.
Well, I tell you, I can make that happen. Those are the good folks from Margay that actually run that. That's the Gateway Kartplex, a tremendous facility there with their Ignite program. Further back in the field, starting in the 5th row, like we said, it was Ellie Reed and Heather Carpenter. Here's row 7, Kate McConnell and Alexandra Zetseva. Remember, she was strong at the end. She'll start 14th. Kelly Mossop worked her way back up to the top 5. She'll start 15th alongside Liz Power. And then the final 3 positions on the grid, Becky Hinchcliffe, Lauren Cannon, and Gracie Norton. Those 3 drivers putting on a whale of a show to cap off the opening 25 lapper. But they've got 25 more laps. Now, Townsend, you said you would run down and talk to Heather and kind of get the elbows up. What do you think most of the input? What's the insight coming from the boyfriends and the husbands right now?
I don't know. I just walked down the hall, and as I got close to the office, she said, "Just get out. I'm focusing. Stay away." So it is full Monty here at Gateway. That Chevy Silverado peeling off here as we come back to green. It'll be really interesting to see how Claire Bourdet responds. Got to be frustrated. Got to be some fire in the belly there in that red Mazda. Here we go.
Strong jump there for Wickens as Carly gets away cleanly. Claire Bourdet sliding, I believe, into the 2nd spot. Look at that start for Carly Wickens. She cleans out there nicely through turns 1 and 2. Robbie giving her the green on the headset. Here's a battle further back again. This is Flynn and Bell. Riley Flynn in the 88, Heather Bell in that number 9. Bell's going to go to the bottom of the racetrack. Call this one,
Bell.
Call it,
Nice
Townsend.
move. I love it. Getting aggressive. She really didn't like being around other cars in practice, but having a race under her belt now. Let's see how she does here. Side by side through 3 and 4.
Hey, listen.
There's the 9.
Yeah, I'll back out of this. You get a chance to call your wife. I love that. This is great.
I'm so nervous right now watching. I don't know what's going to happen. Who's that just went by in the green car? Was that Wester or is that Heather Campbell? Or sorry, Carpenter?
Top part of the racetrack. I think that's Emma Dixon, actually, in the number 15 machine. She goes to the top part of the racetrack. Bell will slot back in, so Dixon goes to P4, Bell to P5 right now. Big movers so far coming up. Kate McConnell already up 3 spots. Already contact further back, though, coming through turn number 3 and 4. One driver up into the wall, I believe. We're going to stay green thus far. That is Marta Andretti.
3-point turn to try to get going here. Better hurry up before the field comes through. Back up front, Claire Bourdet leading Carly Wickens. And how about Heather Bell as somebody else gets turned over, barrel rolling down the back straightaway. That might have been Heather Carpenter. It looks like it was. Still flipping. Heather Carpenter. What a crash. That's a 1,000 yards of barrel rolling.
I was going to say a lot of pent-up energy in that thing flipping all the way down the back straightaway. We are going to go caution. Let's go to our iRacing commentator and sim racing specialist, Arjuna Kankapati. What do you think about that opening lap? A couple of really good runs, but then a couple of different incidents there on lap number 4.
Yeah, well, Carly Wickens really jumped the start early, which I know our YouTube chat isn't too happy about. But what we did see is that draft really power Claire Bourdet all the way back to the lead. And then what happened was Abby Guman unfortunately getting a little bit high out of turn 2, and that clipped Heather Carpenter and sent her tumbling head over heels. Now, I thought it was very interesting, guys, that there are a few drivers who started close to the front of the field, Claire Bourdet, Riley Flynn, for example, who were very strong in the early part of the first race, but unfortunately, through no fault of their own, finished the race, further back than they would have liked. So they're starting further up in the field this time around. And so far for Claire, she's, out front once again.
As you said,
live update from pit lane, guys. As I see Heather Bell drop down the order, there was absolute screaming going on between her and my son Jensen, her driver coach and spotter. So something must have happened, a miscommunication on pit lane as Heather's dropped down to 12th. I've got my gaming headset on here. I'm in the bedroom and I can hear them screaming at each other. So all is not well in the Bell camp there. They'll have to get regrouped here for the start, but. Going to be fun here as we still have several laps to go, about 20 to go.
Was there potentially a little move there to come in and get fresh tires? I wonder if that was a call.
I don't know. I'm sure I'll get a full update.
Sure you will.
Maybe more than I want the rest of the day.
It will be an interesting dinner table at the Bell household in California, folks. Good start so far here, as we said, for Claire Bourdet. It was a great jump at the green flag for Carly Wickens. She was able to get away cleanly, but Claire has looked so good. Of course, Sebastian's wife down in St. Petersburg, Florida, again, her charity cart for kids. Driver leading the way to potentially win this thing, though, Gracie Norton in that number 42. She is racing for Special Olympics of Indiana. And again, that big, I think, she got the win. Actually, she got the victory. Yeah, she was just able to sneak by Lauren Cannon. Townsend up 14 positions already. Gracie Norton in the 42 goes P5. Pretty good start for her to try to win this overall event and potentially get the money to go to her charity.
She's been very impressive, and I thought looked very kind of cool and composed there in Heat 1 to take the win, just the way she navigated the dueling with Cannon and with Bourdet. Gracie Norton obviously taken to this like a duck to water, as Bourdet and Wickens and Dixon there in the top 3. On these starts and restarts, Arjuna, every time it seems like the leaders just had a monster jump that sometimes probably would get waved off in real life, but I think they're letting it slide here. I would imagine that on this restart, though, that Wickens and Dixon, kind of wise to the ways now, will be a little closer here.
Yeah, well, the automated race control system clearly not too unhappy, but what we are seeing, Townsend, is that every time that someone does take that big jump, by the time they come around to complete that first lap, after each restart, they get swamped by the drivers behind. The first time on that initial start in heat number 1, we saw 3 drivers 3 wide down into turn number 1 on lap 2. So I'm not so sure that this strategy of jumping the start as early as possible is really the smartest play, because it definitely puts you in a position where you have to fight off the pack of cars that chasing you down from behind.
I was going to say, I would expect that the green from the spotter probably the only time, Townsend, that these ladies will let their husbands or boyfriends yell at them. So I'm sure that they're all on the radio to get things underway. And again, like you said, a huge start for Carly Wickens. And Arjuna said, when you do that big jump, if it's not enough with that air, the hole in the air, man, we've seen lots of packs just stream on by people, the races here so far in the last couple of months.
Yeah, and I think you just have to coach up your better half in this situation, because the toe is so significant. You really don't need huge urgency, especially with several laps left here. Just get a good clean roll on for the throttle, and then the toe is going to help draft you right back up. Even if you get jumped a little bit, it's okay. Keep your car in one piece, try to position yourself in that top 3 or 4. Clearly, as we saw from heat 1, if you can get to that top 4, you've got a chance, because anything's possible on the final lap, again, because of the way the draft is playing out.
Well, we saw when those leaders were battling it out, Becky Hinchcliffe able to take full advantage of the draft that she had. They were, of course, punching a huge hole in the air, and she closed up to make it quite exciting over that final lap. And I expect we'll see more of that. Drivers working their way around. There goes the pace truck heading on down. We're going to go back to racing here in the second of the doubleheader at the Better Half Invitational here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Claire Bourdet, first one over. We have a driver into the wall further back, but underway and rolling down to turn number 1. Good jump for Bourdet. She'll take about 4 or 5 car lengths into 1 and 2. The tighter corner here at Gateway. Again, out of this corner, you have to get the car, get all the way out to the wall to get good speed. Wickens slotting into the second spot. Emma Dixon, though, Townsend right there on the gearbox. She's been very patient, taking full advantage of the draft. Looking to the inside of turn number 3.
Dixon looks to the inside. Wickens to the outside. Dixon should have the advantage running the title radius through turn 4. Now she's going to try to settle in. Looked like a little bit of a wiggle for Emma Dixon coming off turn 4. If she can settle in here and try to still hang on to the draft of Bourdais, I do think she's close enough here to suck right back up.
Man, that was a solid lap there. Good move to the bottom of the track. And as you said, little pinch tight potentially on the exit. That's what gave her that wiggle. Further back, here's the battle right now between Nicole Westra. That is Dalton Kellett's girlfriend. She's using the whole virtual ocular headset that Dalton's been using for the IndyCar iRacing Challenge. She's now trying to put some pressure here on Carly Wickens. But here comes Gracie Norton. She has been so strong as well. Hey, look at Abby Guman's coming in. That's Sage Caribou's girlfriend. She's starting to get up there and get racing in the number 24. She is now slotted right behind Nicole Westra. So that's the battle, Townsend, for 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Just bring Becky Hunter-Ray into the discussion as well.
Yeah, Abby Guman, you have to think, is well advantaged in this competition with Sage Karam, effectively a professional sim racer, coaching her up. As somebody ducked at pit lane there, Guman goes around the outside. They're really starting to fan out here, Arjuna. Mid-pack, so I wonder again if that tire wear is starting to play into it as Becky Hunter-Ray in that yellow car continues to try her march to the front.
Yeah, well, some of these drivers doing a good job to make their way through the field. Gracie Norton, winner of that Heat 1. She's up 14 places in this race so far. She's up into 5th. Becky Hinchcliffe also up 10 positions so far. So some of these drivers have been able to keep it cleaner than others. Only 1 caution in this race so far, and that has definitely helped them. As we get another caution coming out, just as I say that, this time I did put a commentator's curse on it.
Arjuna, what are you doing? A couple of drivers together further back. Lauren Lyondike, I believe, one of the drivers involved. Potentially Alexandra Zetseva as well in the number 8. So Ari Lyondike Jr.'s wife and Marcus Ericsson's girlfriend potentially involved in that one as well. Kelly Mossop spun at the restart. She was the driver who went around further back. There's Zetseva. She's got it in reverse. Going to try to right things here, but
meantime, Rob, we should point out that Emma Dixon, took the lead there in that last little sequence of laps with a great move. Here's a replay of the contact coming off turn 2, and that's the hard part about this track, is not getting pinched as other cars just absolutely slam into the side there. But Emma Dixon with a really nice move to take the lead over Bourdais. And looks like we're going to be shaping up for another great final 12 or 13 laps here as we dash for the finish.
Had we not gone yellow, I think we probably would have seen another front-running trio start to form up. Of course, Dixon, Bourdais, and Carly Wickens all running good up front, and they had pulled a little bit of advantage over Abby Guman in the number 24. But again, we know Gracie Norton, what she was able to do in the opening race with Jack Harvey on the radio, so we'll see what happens there. Becky Hunter-Ray back into the fight. Becky Hinchcliffe has moved up 10 spots, started in that 17th position. Remember, she was incredibly strong over the last couple laps, a 3rd-place finish for her. So Becky doing what she can do to see if she can't win the prize money. We're being told $2,100 now, the prize that will go to the charity of choice for the driver, Becky Hinchcliffe, racing for First Responders Children's Federation. She, of course, runs now in the 7th position. But you're right, Townsend. Emma Dixon made a pretty impressive run there to get to the lead right before the yellow. I think the light's still on in the pace car, so we're not going to go racing as of yet. But she's got to be feeling pretty good, being able to get up front and actually work her way through a couple of drivers to go to P1. She's up 7 spots, started 8th, now runs as your leader.
Yeah, and a world-class competitor in track and field, back in the day. So she's no stranger to big-time competition, Emma Dixon. As we look at her results, up 7 positions. You talked about Gracie Norton up 14 spots from the start. So a lot of big movers in this one.
You know, you mentioned the fact that Emma, of course, had that career, the track and field career. I like the fact that this is potentially, refired some of that competitiveness in some of these ladies, right? They're getting a chance to get back out here. They're the ones on the sideline, Townsend, throughout the race weekends. And I know it's tough, right? When you're sitting on the sidelines and you have nothing to do with it, you feel helpless. You're rooting on your team, you're rooting on your husband or your boyfriend, but man, you just feel so helpless. This time they get the ones to be behind the wheel. Let the husbands do the worrying from the sidelines.
I think what'll be interesting too, Rob, is just how much sim racing any of these women elect to continue to do once this is over. There's a good chance, just based on statistical evidence, of an addiction developing in some percentage of this group. So we'll have to see who really sinks their teeth into this once we get to the finish.
Hey, if that happens, you're going to have another rig at the Bell household and even more internet.
Because you got to handle that. All I do the last 8 weeks is run around this house trying to improve Wi-Fi, broadband, router issues, just to try to keep the family happy. If it's, one kid's streaming on Twitch while the other's on the simulator, I'm trying to get work done. We're trying to homeschool. So hats off to anybody that's watching that has been juggling all those balls with family, life, professional work, everything from home. It feels like the skies are clearing a little bit, but it hasn't been easy.
Yeah, indeed. Shout out to all the families, all the parents, all the kids, all the teachers, and of course all the first responders that have come to the forefront as being so essential to the health and safety of everyone here in the U.S., Canada, and around the world. Big thank you to those of you who are putting your life essentially on the line to make sure that we are healthy moving forward. You're indeed right. There is some light at the end of the tunnel right now, and we look forward to continuing on. Again, stay-at-home orders continuing in so many parts around the country, but those of you who are out are being safe and respecting others, we thank you so much for that. Getting ready to go back to racing. I think we'll complete lap number 15 when we come around, so we're going to have about a 10-lap dash to wrap this thing up. Emma Dixon has been strong, and she's been aggressive trying to go to the front. She wants to get this victory in race number 2, and again, after that, it's going to be all calculations, Townsend. We're up to see who ends up with the victory with the average finish between the two. Could be interesting.
Well, I think Heat 1 was pretty telling. So when I look down through the order, I spot Lauren Canaan there in P9, Becky Hinchcliffe in P7. Wouldn't it be cool if Canaan gets to the front again for another chance to battle it out with Bourdais and Gracie Norton? That was fantastic. Here we come, Rob, to the green flag.
Back at it once again with 10 laps to go. Back to green here in the Better Half Invitational presented by Simplicity. And another great jump for the pole sitter, the driver who led to the green, Emma Dixon. Rocket started turn number 2 with a good lead, but here comes that draft. Look at Claire Bourdais and Carly Wickens taking full advantage of that pole. She's punching in the air. That's the Pro Mazda for you, Arjuna. Big draft down the back straightaway, and that puts Bourdais right with her.
Yeah, and you saw Claire have to check up just a little bit there going through 3 and 4. What this means is Carly Wickens is going to get a double draft here down the pit straight. They may go 3 wide, but Carly thinking a little better of it, electing to hang on the outside into turn 1.
Good
yeah,
for Carly
nice
Wickens
conservative thinking there for Carly Wickens to back out of what could have been a pretty sketchy situation going 3 wide into turn 1. Bourdais still trying to work the low line here to see if she can make a move on Emma Dixon. They slot in 1, 2, 3, nose to tail into 3 and 4. Then they fan out for clear air. I'm getting excited for this finish, Rob. 8 laps to go.
Starting to spool up, isn't it? These young ladies, the learning curve is unbelievably sharp, as is racecraft. That was a tremendous move you guys mentioned for Carly Wickens, kind of getting out of her a little bit. She didn't have a place to go, no need to push too hard. She now continues to run there in the 3rd spot, but we got more drivers coming into play. Abby Gooman in the 24 and Gracie Norton, winner of race number 1 in the number 42. She's coming back to play. We're thinking about going 2 wide, 2 deep through turns number 3 and 4. Around the outside goes, I believe, Bourdais. Look at this battle here right now. The 17 of Bourdais lining up Dixon coming down the back straightaway. Canaan has worked their way up to 7. Here comes Bourdais. She'll tuck to the outside. We'll go 2 by 2 potentially. Side by side to turn her 1. It is Dixon to the bottom. Bourdais to the top, Townsend. This is solid racing.
Dixon's going to slide up here. The slide job as Bourdais goes to the inside. Now we're going to be looking at maybe a 3 wide situation as Carly Wickens is into the fray there. And further back, Gracie Norton now right there in the top 4. Excellent battle, and somebody loses it there. I think that was Gooman.
Couple of drivers together, big wreck. Becky Hunter-Ray involved. More drivers further back. Huge wreck there as a driver climbs over top of another. 20 laps down at 25. Will we go yellow, or are we going to keep rolling here? Claire Bourdais, now your leader. It's moved to Bourdais and Dixon. Carly Wickens, one of the drivers involved. Heather Carpenter, Nicole Westra involved in that big wreck over in turn number 3 and 4. Just getting a little too aggressive with 5 to go. 2 wide going into turn number 3. Here comes Gracie Norton again in the 42. Lauren Canaan is back. to P4. Side-by-side replay action, that contact there, a couple of drivers getting together further back, but we have stayed green going to the end here now. Townsend, we are setting up for a good one. 4 drivers, Bourdais, Dixon, Norton, and Kanaan ready to battle it out for race number 2.
Oh, you could tell Claire Bourdais really wants this one. She was denied in Heat 1, and don't look in your mirrors, Claire Bourdais, because that's Lauren Kanaan in the purple car. She's coming strong, and she wants to party one more time.
Remember what we saw in race number 1, Kanaan using that second groove for a majority of the race over in turn number 1 and 2, took care of the tires there. She's staying there right now. To the bottom though is Bourdais. Kanaan's going to tuck in. We're going to make it 3 wide here at Gateway. Down to the bottom of the racetrack. Book it. Kanaan to the inside, but way around the outside. Contact between 2 and 3. Dixon's taking the lead out of turn number 2.
For the second race in a row, Kanaan and Bourdais get together. Dixon, the beneficiary, as she goes to the front, and now Bourdais is the one chasing Kanaan. How will the favor be repaid here? We're about to find out.
Couple laps remaining. They'll put lap number 23 in the books this time by. Dixon's going to go to the bottom. Bourdais to the top here right now. Again, look at Kanaan. She's running that outside line. Lauren Kanaan has been so good here today at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Again, the high line, getting the better run off the corner. She'll clear Dixon as they work their way down the back straightaway. Almost contact between Bourdais and Norton for P3.
Claire Bourdais sending it into turn 1, and then the big swerve snake move as they go side by side up front. Emma Dixon to the point. Emma Dixon with the slide job, and that was bizarre. She just absolutely backflipped off the track. Not sure what happened there, if she got net coated or what's going on now. Is she back in the mix?
I don't know what happened there at all. We saw her fall down the order. That was definitely some kind of net code, because all of a sudden she hit something and flew in the air, so not sure what happened there.
That looked like Mario Andretti at the Speedway years ago, backflipping off some debris, so perhaps debris on the track, but up front, Lauren Kanaan owning the point with a lap to go.
How close is this going to be in the average finish? Because Gracie Norton, who won the first race, running P3 right now. Kelly Mossop, Alexander Rossi's girlfriend, now runs P2. Further back, here comes the fight. Norton looking to the inside. She might need this position to potentially take over the race win. Going to the top side is Kanaan. There's lap traffic coming down the back straightaway now, Townsend.
Lauren Kanaan had to check up for the lap traffic. This is Mossop with a big run. Looking to the inside, driving that beautiful Bianchi green Mazda. Right there is Mossop. Let's see what happens.
Final corner out of turn number 4. Checker flag will fly this time by. Mossop needs the run. Kanaan's the leader. Here comes the big toe. She'll go to the right side of the racetrack, and no. Lauren Kanaan will win race number 2 here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. A first and a second, very likely your overall winner unofficially. Lauren Kanaan in the number 14 machine. Townsend Bell, those are those final laps of both of those races are worth buying a ticket to watch these ladies run. That was absolutely thrilling.
I could do this every Saturday. Great driving from all of these women. Absolutely on the edge of your seat excitement for the final few laps. And Lauren Kanaan, aggressive, sort of measured, and just utterly ruthless in terms of wanting to own the front on those final laps. Great job. A little bit of post-race contact there, but all good in the sim world. And how about Claire Bourdais? You kind of feel for her. She raced so well, comes home with a 4th place position. And further back, Becky Hinchcliffe looking very competitive. Emma Dixon, I'm sure frustrated with whatever happened there digitally that got a little glitchy for her, because she was a front runner all day long. Further down through the top 10, nice to see Ellie Reed, wife of Chad Reed, coming over to the IndyCar side from the Supercross world.
Yeah, look, there's your top 10, folks, in our second race of the Better Half Invitational, powered by Simplicity Cold Pressed Juice. Lauren Kanaan with the victory. Kelly Mossop just not quite enough at the end to take over the win. Less than a tenth of a second, the gap between first and second. Gracie Norton, strong run. A win in race number 1. She ends up finishing in 3rd here in race 2. Claire Bourdais 4th. Becky Hinchcliffe rounding out the top 5. Emma Dixon, Lauren Lyondike, Alexandra Zatseva, Abby Guman, and Ellie Reed capping off the top 10. Further back, Riley Flynn coming home in 11th, Kate McConnell in 12th, Heather Carpenter 13th, Becky Hunter-Ray 14th, Nicole Westra in 15th, Heather Bell in 16th spot, Liz Power, Carly Wickens, and Marta Andretti. Townsend rounding out the field of drivers. Man, that was just a ton of fun to call, and I'm sure for those of you watching here on the iRacing YouTube or any one of the Twitch channels, a lot of fun to watch as well.
Now comes the hard part for all the husbands and the boyfriends, because the nerves and the energy is at an all-time high in the household. So I'm going to very carefully tiptoe down the hallway to the kitchen, get a bottle of Chardonnay, pour Heather a glass, and just take it all in and hear all about it. So thanks for having me today, guys. That was a blast. What a great first event. And thanks to James Hinchcliffe and the folks at Simplicity for making this happen. A lot of charities benefited in terms of exposure and money today, and it was a lot of fun to call it with you, Rob and Arjuna.
Townsend, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Go grab that bottle of Chardonnay for Heather. Tremendous run. We're talking about a second place finish and a first place finish for Lauren Canaan. So unofficially, I think she's going to take the overall championship. And $2,100 will go to her charity, the Riley Children's Foundation in Indianapolis. The foundation is the fundraising arm of the Riley Hospital for Children at Indianapolis University or Indiana University Health. They're also a founding organization that opened Riley Hospital back in 1924. They were recognized as one of the best children's hospitals in the nation. Riley Children's Foundation also supports Camp Riley and the James Whitcomb Riley Museum Home as well. So a fantastic charity. I know I've done a couple of events for Riley as well. Congratulations to Lauren Canaan. That was a tremendous run for her. She actually does now. We're being confirmed. Lauren Canaan, the overall winner of the Better Half Invitational. Arjuna, what do you think about the end of that? Tony Canaan, Laura Canaan, pretty solid duo there here in the iRacing program.
Yeah, well, I was trying not to make my bias known throughout the race. You know, Team Powerslide, the IndyCar team that I run with, we've been supporting TK throughout the last few weeks in a lot of the events that he's been participating with. And I know just how much the Riley Foundation means to him and his family. He's had some, personal experience with how important the work that foundation does for the hospital. So really exciting to see. And we saw some great action here. And I'm thinking, Rob, some of these better halves going to start giving, some attention to the sim rig, and maybe some fights over the keys to the sim rig are going to develop in some of these households.
Arjuna, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was expecting that, who's going to be able to be on the rig? How many of these ladies are going to stay on the rig this evening? Hey, show me. Let's find a hosted race. I want to jump into something. Let's do an official iRacing event, because what we saw there was really some impressive racecraft drivers getting a feel for exactly where they needed to be. You watch drivers like Gracie Norton working your way through the field. Emma Dixon looked impressive. Becky Hinchcliffe was super strong as well. And I think we saw some drivers probably not get the end that they expected, because Riley Flynn was very fast. Kate McConnell was up there quite a bit. Nicole Wester was there at the end as well. You know what? For me, just a lot of fun to watch these ladies who I normally see kind of pacing on pit lane at the NTT IndyCar Series races. They get an opportunity to potentially get themselves into the, behind the wheel themselves, which I think was great. Arjuna, any other final thoughts here right now? I know we got a couple of drivers potentially coming up to the interview room. We can get a chat with them, but what are your final thoughts of today's action here at the Better Half Invitational?
No, I think I agree with basically everything that you just said. All of these women, they support these drivers so much. A lot of them, traveling to every single race where there's a lot of stress placed on them. And it's good to be able to celebrate them in a little bit of a way here. It's not much, but it's a little bit of an appreciation. And $2,100 going to the Riley Foundation. So, it's good to see some charity work coming out of this event as well.
Actually, we got an update from Will Vincent from RaceSpot. $4,600 we're being told raised to go to Riley Children's Hospital. Tremendous charity in Indianapolis, and man, that is absolutely fantastic. We're going to see if we can get a chance to talk to a couple of the ladies, the wives and girlfriends who were part of this amazing event. And obviously a shout out to James Hinchcliffe, he and Becky, everybody that put this thing together to be able to bring these ladies into the sims. Of course, they've lost not only the time with their husbands and boyfriends, but most likely, Arjuna, as you know, I'm sure you got a great sim set up at home. They probably lost one of their rooms as well.
Yeah, and when we were talking to Townsend about, the potential of his son who also uses a sim rig, I was sitting here thinking, God, that's a great excuse to get a second sim rig. So, maybe some of these drivers, as we come out of this pandemic and the supply for a lot of this sim racing hardware becomes a little bit more available, maybe we're going to see some households develop, sim garages and things like that and become a true family kind of, entertainment.
Well, I think for a lot of it, just to people that follow, of course, all the drivers on social media and watch and follow all their wives and girlfriends on social media as well, you see the different sides of what racing's all about. There's the stress, of course, and there's the agony, there's the defeat, but there's also the joy of the celebration of a job well done. And you got to give props to Lauren Canaan. She put a lot of time in on the sim. Of course, TK giving her a hand as well to make sure that that she was going to be fast. I think everybody hoping that their wife or girlfriend was going to at least have a good time and get a chance to get behind the wheel. There's Lauren Canaan right there on that number 14 Pro Mazda machine. She did a tremendous job. Well, I think, no one coming to the interview room. We should probably wrap things up here. Arjuna, it was a pleasure having you work with Townsend and I today. I know that you do a lot of work for RaceSpot as a sim commentator. You're a top iRacing veteran driver as well. Just a lot of fun being part of the action here today.
Yeah, great to be on the call. And, as we get back to real racing, obviously the IndyCar, paddock going to reform in Texas in the start of June. I'm very excited to, get back to real racing. I have one of my teammates works in the IndyCar paddock. I'm excited to, for him to get to go back to work and for all of these drivers to start putting on a show for us all at home.
Yeah, I think we're all thinking the same thing, Arjuna. We're trying to get back at it here, trying to get some normalcy into our lives. And of course, as NASCAR has kind of got rolling, that's kind of given us all kind of a breath of fresh air. Of course, the IndyCar drivers will get things going again. The NTT IndyCar Series on track on June the 6th at Texas Motor Speedway. From there, they move to the IndyCar Grand Prix weekend on the 4th of July weekend alongside the Brickyard 400 races at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Schedule still evolving after that. We look to go to Road America as Toronto was canceled. Obviously, a lot of things, a lot of collateral damage for everything that we're dealing with the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. But everybody doing a great job, everybody staying home, which we are thankful for. And again, we're going to wrap things up here, folks, from Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute ton of fun here at the Better Half Invitational presented by Simplicity. Again, $4,600 raised by Lauren Canaan, the overall winner today for the Riley Children's Hospital. And we are done. Big thank you, of course, to Hugo Luis and Tyler Maxon working on the cameras here today. And in the booth, a pleasure to work with Townsend Bell and you, Arjuna Kankapati. It's been tremendous, folks. Thank you so much for being with us here on RaceSpot on the iRacing YouTube channel. My name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.